Hey everyone, good morning. Dzień dobry. How are you? Oh my lord, we're gonna do a get ready with me. I'm planning a cool video in my next one, a Halloween one, so be prepared for that. But as for this one, I wanted to dedicate a video to the month of October. As you know, I can probably at least name 3 things that are celebrated in the month of October, and some are to celebrate, some are to bring awareness. And here I am going to dedicate something that's actually really important to me, and it's going to be feeling really weird because I'm not one to get vulnerable or really open up, period. But the one thing that's really important to me, has been important to me, and I've been just continuously doing my research, raising awareness. I don't know if I would say that. I work in silence. I'm not one to, per se, post and force my opinions on people, especially when it is so personal to me, because I have been judged. So I just kind of just say what I say. If people ask questions, I tell them the truth. That's the end of the story. But all that being said, wow, see, I'm rambling. I was just cleaning for 30 minutes before, and I've been up at 6 a.m. I don't have to go to work till 8. And I'm like, wow, I'm super stressed right now, because the only reason I clean is when I'm stressed. It's the Polish in me, I promise you. I am gonna be talking about my experience and my previous relationship with domestic violence to bring awareness. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Have I been ashamed of it? Absolutely. I've been ashamed of that, being married and divorced in such a short time, because I would definitely say that I was the first in my entire family, cousins and all that bullshit, to get a divorce, and especially to get a divorce after not even being married for a year. I officially separated 2 months after we got married, a little under, but I was planning my way out probably 3-4 weeks after we got married. That is when shit hit the fan. It was bad. So, I'm gonna just get ready for work while I bring awareness. Again, I want to talk about this because I want to not have domestic violence have such a stigma to it. It is something that I'm very private about, because I don't share things like that with people I don't trust, because again, I've been shamed, I've been judged, I've been told I need to go save him because he's possessed. I mean, you name it, I've heard it, okay? And the last thing I want to end up in all this, which is why I left, is fucking dead. Pardon my language. But it gets to that point, okay? It increases the longer you stay with that person, and it's not overnight. That's another thing. People are so baffled. They're like, well, how'd you not see this coming? I'm like, you are so ignorant. It's a mental, it's emotional, it's physical. I mean, it's a buildup, and they slowly build you up to test what you're gonna tolerate, which is why I stayed, because I tolerated all this bullshit, until they finally start making it more and more aggressive. And so when you stay, you're basically validating them that what they're doing is okay, and you're okay being treated this way. It's a mental illness. This is not normal. This is not okay. So again, I'm really bringing awareness to this, is because people are shocked when they find out that I was in a domestic abusive relationship. People are shocked when I say that I was married and divorced. Especially when you know me, the person I used to be 2 years ago, and that person that I was then is not the person that I am now. And I've always had a very strong personality. I guess you would say that you could see me kind of taking the lead and having people follow my lead, or being like one to take the reins on life. But when it came to my relationship, I was so beat down. I was definitely insecure. I didn't know what love is because I was never shown it as a child. So you basically go off of what? Fuck. This is gonna be hard. You basically go off of what you're taught as a child, right? So if you don't know what love is, because all you see is like your parents fighting and getting physically aggressive and saying just like the nastiest things to each other, that's what you think is a really like a relationship, because they stayed. But to me, the only reason I would say I was gonna ever leave my ex was if I ever caught him cheating. Lo and behold, he did cheat. So that's kind of fucked up too. No, but really, like, people are always just so, I guess not confused, but they're curious as to like what happened? Like, you are such a strong, oh my God, I am crying like a little baby. I was not expecting this. But they are asking like questions, as they should. I mean, the whole situation was just fucked up. I should have never gotten married. I mean, I had my doubts. He manipulated me, convinced me into doing it. I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, domestic violence is a thing. For those of you that are like asking, like, oh, is this an abusive question, like, or relationship? Am I being manipulated? Am I being emotionally abused? Am I being mentally, physically? If you are questioning it, the answer, my friend, is yes. I'm so sorry to let you know, but yes, you are. And the only way you can validate that is do your research. Google it. That's what really brought the awareness to me. Unfortunately, I was married at that point and it was a little bit too late, so I had to deal with the legality of all of that. But again, so domestic violence, I was with my partner for about 10 years, ended up getting married. I wouldn't say that it was always like this, but towards the end, the last like right after we got engaged, a few months into it, that's when shit was hitting the fan. And when I say that, that's when I noticed like things were getting out of control and they were getting very serious in regards to what was happening. But prior to that, there had been 2 incidences where he was physically violent with me. And I forgave him for it. The second time there was an incident, I did threaten to call the police. And from that moment on, he never per se put his hands on me again or was physically violent towards me. But what he would do is he would threaten or intimidate to hit me again. And of course, there was kind of like a silence. I'm not sure if he realized it or if this was just part of the abusive cycle. It's all a whole mindfuck, if we're gonna be honest. But fast forward to the like last 2 years of our relationship, he began to become emotionally abusive. I thought it was just him being emotionally unavailable. He was in school, so I thought he was just very stressed out. There's a lot on his plate. And some people are very sensitive to when they have a lot of things on their plate. They shut down. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to cope, especially men. Men aren't provided an environment where they can feel comfortable to seek help or therapy without having some kind of stigma attached to it. Looking at it now, I don't think he was emotionally available. I think he is batshit crazy, a narcissist with, what is it, a sociopath or psychopath? The one that doesn't want to kill people, but the one that will like fuck you over basically to just get ahead in life. And they have 0 morals, 0 integrity, and they will do whatever they need to get what they want out of life. Like that's what his issue is. But At the time that I was with him, I just figured that he was emotionally unavailable. You know, we're engaged, we're planning a huge wedding, which to me, I never cared for a wedding. I never wanted to get married. I'm like, you know, I'm with someone, I'm loyal to them. I'm not gonna be messing around. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff. I'm essentially very blindly loyal, as you would say. And with him, he was just so adamant on having a wedding. So I said, let's, you know, we financially aren't in the best place. Like, let's go to the courthouse, get it legally done. And then in the future, we can plan and save for a wedding. I was the one that had the sole provider of the income. I made 4 times the amount that he did because he was a student and he was basically just getting paid like a stipend through his school that he was going through. So really it was the people that had paid the bill for the wedding was basically my mom and me paid for like 70% of everything. And then I would say I would give his mom a good 30% if you included the honeymoon. If you don't include the honeymoon, she definitely did not pay more than 20%. Like, that's just bogus. All that being said, so, you know, I started noticing he was emotionally, quote unquote, unavailable. So I asked him to go and, you know, do something about it. I was like, I can't do this. Like, if I'm upset or there's an issue, we need to resolve it. Like, this like stonewalling, ignoring, walking out, like leaving me by myself while I'm like in tears for hours while you go enjoy like a basketball game and drop the deuces and don't give a fuck. Like, no, we are not doing, this is not a partnership. This is not a relationship. I'm not gonna be neglected like this. Okay, he started reading books about it. Cool, whatever. And then what he would do to like lead me on and give me false hope is he would like regurgitate and like talk about what he read, but he never implemented it, which it should have been my red flag, being like, oh, he's reading all about this and he should be doing X, Y, and Z, but like, I don't see it. Well, maybe he just needs, you know, he's just a little bit slower. He just needs to kind of ease into it. So the physical part was like an incident when we both moved to Dallas. It was the 3rd year we lived here because we lived in Oak Lawn area in a townhouse, and that's when those 2 incidences occurred. The emotional abuse, I think, also occurred around that time. So when we would get into arguments, he'd call me crazy and psycho and who's ever gonna want me? Like, you know, I'm high maintenance and I, you know, I'm so demanding and all the stuff. If you know me, I am like the chillest, most laid back person ever, okay? Like, I do not ask for much. And if we do anything, there's like one request. Like, I'll be like, hey, I just really want to do that. Outside of that, we can do whatever. I wing it. I am a type B personality baby, okay? So he would just, you know, emotionally, mentally abuse me this entire time. And of course, I didn't really understand that. I thought that was normal because that's what I saw my parents doing. That's what I saw his parents doing. Like, in our culture, we're both Polish. That's what life is in a marriage like that. Like, that's just normal. So I accepted that behavior, unfortunately. As we're leading up to the bridal shower, we ended up going to couples counseling, specifically. I did not like that. Bitch, did my light go out? So we're gonna just have to deal with the natural lighting, guys. I'm so sorry for that. I guess it's not that bad. My setup just totally blew out. So I'm gonna have to take care of that this weekend. So yeah, leading up to the bridal shower, we were going to therapy. In regards to our relationship being very abusive, his mom was very invested. That's a whole nother conversation, but there was abuse also coming from her end towards me. Never physical, it was mental and emotional for sure. The entire relationship, she has just been a complete asshole, if we're gonna be honest, and she always will be an asshole. She's just so unhappy and mentally unstable. But we did go to counseling in regards to his mom, and during the counseling session, I realized like I was like sobbing. I was crying. I'm like, I want to make this work. I don't understand why she's so resistant against me, why she hates me, why she says these nasty things towards me. And he's just like sitting there, like staring at me like this. And I'm like, oh, like tissues, like Kleenex. And the therapist is like, probably reading us, being like, oh no, this is not gonna be good. And I'm like, why is he not holding me? Why is he not hugging me? Why is he not even handing me like the tissues or just sitting close to me, right? Like he's just like, blank stare. And when I would talk about it, again, red flag, but he would basically switch the subject into being like, oh, my dad is extremely paranoid, and like divert and deflect the issue into something that we weren't going there for. Like, the reason we are in counseling right now, sir, is because your mom mentally and emotionally beats me up, and it is unacceptable. And I've walked away from situations. I've never been disrespectful to her face. Outside of that, I'll be like, I ain't fucking with that. Don't get me in that room with her. I don't want to be around that. She's so negative and nasty. Like, she's batshit crazy. Of course I'd say that outside that. But in front of her, I would never say anything like that. I would just say like, oh, that's rude, or wow, what would I say? I would say things like, I would either give her a stare, just kind of being like, and like walk away. I would say, that's really rude. I'd be like, well, what do you mean? That's not okay to say, like things like that, right? She would also like make fun of her children in front of, like she would shame her children in front of me. And now I'm realizing that's the same exact thing that my ex would do to me, which is messed up. Anyways, so we went to counseling for her because I was like, I really want to make this work. I want us all to be happy. I'm willing to forgive her for everything that she's done if we can create this new space in which we both are respectful of each other and we can move forward in a very mature, healthy manner. Wishful thinking. That did jack shit. Like, I got nothing out of that. That therapist should also be fired because she totally did not like resolve the issue at hand. And really it was just like, she didn't care. Like, she was not invested. You know, a couple months later, as we're kind of trucking through, you know, the shit with his mom, I'm like, fuck it, whatever. We live in Dallas. She lives in Chicago. I'm not really too concerned about it. She's not physically here. So that's like a later issue. Now, the other issue that started becoming worse and worse was the being emotionally unavailable, being emotionally and physically abusive, or not physically, I'm sorry, being emotionally and mentally abusive as we're leading up to the bridal shower. It was bad, guys. Like, it was very, very bad and very, very sad that I even like went through something like that. But as we're, you know, we're leading up to the bridal shower, you know, if that happens, this is where he started becoming financially abusive. He took all the money that we got from the bridal shower, which is, for who does the purpose of having a bridal shower serve? It serves the female, the lady, the bride, right? So can someone please tell me why he cashed out on all that money we got and paid off his credit cards bills? And then he tried to play stupid. So all the money that we got for the bridal shower was basically going to be used to put down deposits and pay off the credit card that I opened up under my name for the wedding. I'm an idiot. So yes, the bridal shower money, all of that went to pay off his credit card debt. Jackass. And so therefore we had like little to no money when it came to making more purchases for the wedding. Because again, I was the one with the sole providing income, made 4 times more than him. He made jack shit, and his mom was not coughing up the cash. So it was really me, and I should have totally just been like, fuck this, I'm out. But I really wanted to make this work. He really convinced me. It was, you know, I was gonna make it happen no matter what. As we kind of get closer and closer to the wedding, you know, after the bridal shower specifically, it was maybe a few months out, about 3 months out, and I basically demanded him to go in person to seek counseling. Like, I was like, no more with this bullshit of you doing this, read your own book and implementing the activities, like you are going to figure out how you can be emotionally available in our relationship. Because I am not, and I said this, I was like, I'm not getting married to you if I'm basically just talking to a wall when we're in an argument. Like, that's not a relationship, nor am I gonna deal with that. Like, this is way too stressful. It's just not what life is cut out. Like, I slowly started figuring out that this was not a healthy relationship. So he ended up going to therapy, and I'll put this in air quotes because I don't think he ever did. I think he totally bullshitted me. Right? And he would, you know, just give me enough information to like lead me astray and know that I was satisfied. You know, he gave me enough of hope in the relationship to think that we were gonna work out. So we did go through with the wedding. I was like absolutely numb on my wedding day. Like, I was just, I can't even explain it. Like, I had so many, I don't know if you guys believe in signs, but I had so many signs just saying that this is not supposed to happen. I mean, at one point I had red wax spilt all over the back of my wedding gown. Like, I don't think that could have been more of a sign of being like, stop, get the fuck out. I was just like, we're gonna get married. Like, I was that determined. We did. We ended up going on our honeymoon to Barcelona. On our honeymoon, it was very bizarre. He just like wanted to keep FaceTiming his mom. And I'm like, I mean, why do people go on a honeymoon? They go on the honeymoon to get it on. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't want to get it on with someone after you're just like, no. What? So that was a shit show. The things that I wanted to do, we didn't get to do a good chunk of it. So again, that's just like the fact that like he could really give two shits about me. When we came back, the lies started unfolding. He started tripping up. He couldn't keep his story straight. And it was like a domino effect. It was like one lie after another. And thank God my mom was there when we had the conversations between him and I, because that's what he was manipulating and trying to alter the story. And of course, when he would typically alter the story, he would go back to me saying that I'm crazy. It got to the point where I signed up for a study for them to do an MRI on my brain so I can take a look at my brain, because I like thought I had a fucking tumor in my head. Like, I legit thought I was like, I thought I was losing my mind. Like, I was that convinced that I was having memory problems, that like I couldn't keep up with anything. And it was like really fucked up, because that's like me thinking I had a sickness, and I didn't. It was just him manipulating me and calling me crazy and telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that's not how the story went. So I'm really grateful that at that time, even though we already got married, all that bullshit, that my mom was there. And I called her and I was like, Mom, did this really happen this way? And she's like, no. And I'd be like, I would look at him and be like, so what are you talking about? And he'd be like, well, you know, he would change it. And he'd be like, why are you calling your mom? Like, you always get her involved. Like, he wouldn't like it when I would call my parents to validate the story, because he knew he was being exposed for it. So of course, you know, that happened a couple times. And once I started realizing, you know, he's been manipulating me, lying me, he started getting physically aggressive with me again. You know, we were having a lot of arguments when I was exposing him for the lies and the manipulations, and he would start physically intimidating me again. So he wouldn't like act like he was gonna punch me. So what he would do is I would sit there talking to him. We would probably be yelling, arguing, and he would just like swing right in front of my face and like punch the light switch. So like literally I felt the gust of wind from the fist. And like I would look over and there would be like a hole in the wall, and like a broken, like the little plastic thing around the light switch would be broken. So he was doing what he needed to do to physically intimidate me. And it was his tactic of like basically not keeping me quiet, because I am one to like talk back. And to an extent, like I will buck up and like like get in your face and be like, that's not fucking right, especially for something that I don't believe is like okay. And so this time he started like he would like pick shit up and throw it across the room. He would slam things. I mean, he was like getting out of control. He was totally losing it at this point. And then he got on the phone and, you know, he told me he never thought he had any illness, narcissist. Never thought he was mentally, like was emotionally unstable. He just did it all for me. He just did it to shut me up. And so I was like, so did you even go? And he just didn't say anything. So I was like, oh, well, that's lovely. He did it. He told me the only reason he did the therapy and he told me he was doing it was to basically, he knew if I didn't do it, I would leave him. And I'm like, well, here we are, sir. I will be leaving you. In the midst of this, he's like calling his mom, getting her to get like riled up against me. And I'm just like, she's saying that I'm going to make his life miserable. He's going to like saying that he's going to end up getting a divorce 30 years down the line. Like she was the one that propositioned divorce, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. And I was like, oh, okay. So we want to play this game of like you want to threaten me? I'm one step ahead of you. Let me make this easier for you. His mom was like super involved at this point. He also started getting like sexually abusive. So before we got married, he made a specific comment that I was like, that is fucked up. And he told me, he said, I want to have kids, but not with you. I was like, so are you going to have a mistress? Like, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean you want to have kids, but not with me? And he ended up being like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, that was fucked up. I should have never said that. Once we got married, he made another similar comment. He's like, what makes me think that I would ever want to touch you again? I have no interest in ever having sex with you again. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're going there. So of course I was like devastated, being like, how could you say something like that? First of all, who gets married to be a virgin? Not I. Once we got married, that's when that's when the lies were unfolding. He became sexually abusive. So he would like grab on me and like grab my ass and my thigh and like, oh, I just want to gag, like grope me basically. And I would be like, get your hands off of me. Like, I do not want to touch you right now. It ended up being to the point where I did not change in front of him. I would go into the bedroom, I would go into the closet, grab my clothes, go into the bedroom, change for work, and then get out as quickly and as quietly as possible. I didn't engage in his arguments in the morning. He would try to start shit. Like he was losing it and he was pissed that he was losing control of the situation, that I was no longer like engaging, and I was like totally clocked out. Also, I most likely was clocked out because I was most likely depressed during this time. Like, I wasn't eating. I lost probably like 10-ish pounds, and I'm like 5'3", 5'2". I think I was weighing like under 115 at one point, and I'm like, now I have a muscular build, but then I was like a little bit like, a little slim thick. So he started getting sexually abusive, talking about my body, saying that my butt was too big, my breasts were too small, and he now likes girls with big breasts. So I'd be like, so what do you want me to do? Like, get implants? He's like, no, ew, like that's gross. Like, you would be so unnatural. And I'm like, well, I can't just like water them and like for them to grow overnight. Like, that's fucked up. Like, he just literally made me so fucking insecure that I can't believe I even listened to any of that shit. He also became financially abusive. So I had this credit card that we said we would open up at the end of the wedding. We would take all the wedding money and pay off the credit card. Can someone tell me why every time I would bring up the conversation of paying that credit card out, he would get like physically aggressive and intimidate me again and basically make me not want to do that. Like he would try to like using intimidating tactics to prevent me from using the money that we got for the wedding to pay off the credit card. I ended up putting my foot down, being like, no, we're gonna pay this off. Like, this is it. This is why we have the credit card. The only thing that was charged on this credit card was this wedding shit. So we're paying it off, whether you like it or not, sir. And if you wanna slap me, punch me, by all means, knock yourself out. At this point, I was like, not scared. I think at that point I already had signed a lease. Like I was ready to get out. My brother bought me put a down payment for my car, and I was ready to rock and roll, baby. Like I had my fucking plan of attack. The only thing that sucked was that I couldn't take my dog with me, our dog. So he has him, whatever. He probably beats the dog too, for all we know. That poor thing. It just spiraled, and at that point I knew when he tried taking control of my money, telling me how the money needs to be spent, without trying to ask for, like, he was just demanding, like, pay, like, he wanted like $2,000 health insurance. And I'm like, sir, I don't know what to tell you, but it looks like you're having no health insurance, or go get like a part-time or full-time job that will offer you health insurance. I am not paying $2,000 to $2,500 for health insurance. That just is stupid. So if you really need it that bad, you could call your mommy, because like I'm not fucking doing that. That is just insane. So yes, so there was financial abuse, sexual abuse after we got married, and his mom was just like heavily involved, to the point where, like, you know, she was saying things that I was gonna take his social security number, and steal his identity. And I'm like, bitch, I work for a school district. Do you not understand that's a fucking felony? And no offense, but why would I put myself in a situation of getting a felony when your child makes $20,000 and I make 4 times that amount? Why would I want to lose my job over that? They're sick in the head. He was also accusing me a lot of cheating during this time, which I find laughable, because really he was the one that has been cheating on me. I don't know when it was happening, but I just remember him always talking about her. She would make cookies and kimchi, and like he would bring it home and just like brag about her. She was apparently like the admin at their lab, and he'd be like, oh, she's so smart and all this stuff. I'm like, but she is probably our age, which is what, like 27, 28 at that time. She's a nanny and an admin, and like not getting an like, I was like, I don't understand why like someone could be like, why are you so infatuated with her? Oh, Monia, you're so silly. So yeah, he would like bring her cookies and like homemade meals, and I'm not gonna lie, that shit tasted really good. But I mean, while I was eating her physical cookies she made for us, he probably was eating her actual cookie. That is like the most sick, twisted, demented thing ever. Like, I don't even understand. I was a means to an end. I really guarantee you that the only reason he married me is because he knew that he'd be financially like set. Like, I took care of everything from A to Z. There's so much more I can jump into and provide details, but really, it's domestic violence can happen to anyone. You don't know it. Not a lot of people knew what I was going through. The divorce was the most stressful, anxiety-driven thing I've ever been through. It still lingers. I still suffer from it. I catch myself starting shit sometimes, and I see how it's affected me. Thankfully, I had therapy during my divorce, and she's been a blessing. She's provided me all the tools that I need to be, to get myself back up on my feet and get me to a place where I can be looking for healthy relationships and green flags and not dealing with the bullshit all over again, because really it's very easy to fall into it, my friends. It's almost like an addiction, especially since I've been dealing with it since I was, my entire life. I think this is now, it's been a year, May, June, July, August, September. It's been a year and 4 months since I've not experienced or been through something abusive. So for me, I'm still trying to not fall back into that cycle or overcompensate with the fact of oh no, it's not him, it's me, because that is the mindset that you very much are into. And people in abusive relationships, the victims, the survivors, they will do everything they need to cover up the tracks of the abuser. And it gets to the point where you don't even realize that the abuser is the abuser, because they're so good at manipulating the situation and preying on the victim and making them insecure and making them think that it's all their fault. I mean, for instance, take the nationwide case that got around, which is with Gabby Petito. I saw that 1.5 hour long body cam video, and I legit thought I was gonna throw up, because I saw myself doing the same thing when I was in the relationship with my ex. I kept blaming myself, being maybe I am high maintenance, maybe I am asking for too much, maybe I am crazy, maybe I really don't recall what's going on. And then once I found my footing and I was doing my own research, looking up what are signs of abuse, what happens, how do you get to this extent, I realized fuck, dude, that's me. And I did what I had to get out as quickly and quietly as possible. And at one point he was also stalking me. So that was fun. I mean, there's so much detail that I can get into that it's disgusting that there's human beings they're out there. They're very, very sick in the head. And I would say they need help, but I think that there's no hope for them. They just will pray and pray and pray on to the next until they get what they want out of it. It's a very sadistic game. So just be sure during this month that you do reach out to your friends and you do ask questions and you do give them an opportunity to be vulnerable. And even if that means that you might have to take the first step to open up, that can make a world of a difference. Sending them articles. At that time, I had a friend that was sending me articles being hey, listen up, this is not normal. Yeah, so even someone as myself has suffered through abuse from my childhood, and even in my previous relationship. And so that's why it's important, because again, people don't think of it. They don't think it's possible. They don't understand it. They judge you. They judge the situation. I mean, the abuser is very, very, very manipulative, and don't put anything ever past him or her. And I'm saying him or her because it can be either gender, but in a majority of the situation, it is the male that is the abuser. And I would never hurt someone. I would never do anything malicious to anyone. So it's heartbreaking to think that people that knew me and my ex would think that I would do something to hurt him, because I wouldn't. And to this day, I haven't. I just grabbed my shit, my personal belongings, and I left. I don't think I could have made it any easier. In the divorce, I said, I don't want nothing. I just want my life back. I don't want anything to do with you. I just want my life back. Because my attorney asked me if I should get a restraining order. I'm I just want this as easy. I just want to be out. And I hid for 9 months in another town. And people are why do you live out there? And I'm because I wanted to. No, I hid because I was scared for my life. Yeah, I was definitely scared for my life. So yes, be sure to educate yourself. Be sure to reach out to a friend, checking in, just make sure they're okay. If you have the financial means or the time available, help a shelter nearby, donate your time, donate your money. If that's something that you can do during this month for me, for yourself, for someone that you know maybe that has gone through something like that, that would mean the world. So yeah, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. I promise they're not as like serious as this. I'm a very lighthearted, like person. So definitely subscribe, say hi. If you need help, if you need resources, let me know. I would be more than happy to be there for you. Again, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So I want to help out as much as I can and be there for people that need that push in the right direction, because it's very terrifying, it's scary, but there are resources out there and there are ways that you can go about it to put yourself in a very safe situation. As much as they'll threaten and scare you, there is a way out. So be sure to take care of yourself first. That's absolutely the most important thing you can do, and then everything will fall into place afterwards. Thank you guys for watching my video. Please subscribe, and until the next one, bye guys.